Hello humans, it's just Martine and welcome to the start of another weekly reading vlog. It's the last week of March and I still have some books that I want to read in March, so those are my focus for this week. Some of them will be directly related to this reading vlog. I'll give you some reviews on them. For example, the No Girlfriend Rule, I'm reading that this month and I'm like 12% of the way in, I'm going to say. Others like my Magic Treehouse picks for the rest of the month. I read one in my last reading vlog, but I still have 3 more to go. I'm also kind of hoping to fit in another for fun read that I started last night, but we'll have to see. And then there are also some books that I'm reading for other projects, but I need some accountability to read this week. It's also kind of a weird week because last week I was away for the second half of the week through the weekend at a conference. Because of that, my brain is a little all over the place and I need to like recenter, get my life together and all of those things. Right now, since it's Monday afternoon, I did unfortunately have to go to class this morning, but I'm going to take a relaxing afternoon and also do minimal to no things tomorrow for school because I was doing school things all weekend, you know? I presented on Saturday night. I was with all of my classmates yesterday. I'm done thinking about school for a few minutes. Please, please, please. I don't know what that will mean in terms of my reading, whether that will facilitate or hamper my reading. I'm kind of just trying to check in with myself and see what I need right now. And if that is to read for a day and a half straight, that would be very handy. But if that's not to do that, I'm gonna not do it, you know? So I'll check in with you when I have some progress. Good afternoon. I just kicked off my reading week in the best possible way, finishing a book that I've been reading since January. The reason I've been reading it since January is because I've been reading a few chapters at a time with one of my friends from back home, and some weeks we've met, but some weeks we haven't been able to meet, so progress has been kind of slow. But today I finally finished reading it, and that's This Here Flesh by Cole Arthur Riley, and I'm giving it 5 stars. This is like a theological, spiritual, but also like deeply human book, just with musings by the author. I had the pleasure of hearing her speak at a retreat I went to over winter break. I unfortunately missed her main talk because I was sick that day, but I went to her workshop later and heard her. And when I say that she is one of the most beautiful writers I've ever read, I mean it. And I also want you to know, like I just need you to know that she speaks that exact same way and with that same intelligence and wisdom, not just when she's giving a prepared speech, but when she was answering on the fly question and answer things. Her responses took my breath away. Like, she's incredible. Her brain's incredible. Her soul is incredible. She's incredible. I was lucky enough to get a signed copy of her book. Since I did this for a book study, I ended up tabbing it the whole way through, and so it's like beautifully annotated. But the problem is that the writing was so good that there are just pages that look like this, where like everything was good. Everything was so good. This isn't a book that like tries to force you to believe any certain ways. In fact, one of my favorite quotes about this is when she says, I don't have many certainties about God, but I have many hopes. And so I think it's just like a deeply contemplative piece of work about being alive. My favorite quote is from page 123 in the chapter about justice, because as a person who studies the criminal justice system, justice is an idea that I think about a lot. This just really got me. I want to read this piece to you so that you understand what she's like. True justice has little concern for good and bad, and is much more interested in protecting and affirming dignity with tangible actions and repair. You might think justice is a form of choosing sides, choosing whom to stand behind. In a way, maybe it is. But justice doesn't choose whose dignity is superior. It upholds the dignity of all those involved, no matter whom it offends or what it costs. Even when demanding retribution, justice does not demean the offender's dignity. It affirms it. It communicates that what has been done is not what the offender was made for. They too were made for beauty. In justice, everyone becomes more human. Everyone bears the image of the divine. Justice does not ask us to choose. So yeah, 5 stars. Hi friends, happy Thursday. This week has been crazy so far. I did enjoy a nice Tuesday off, and I did not get much reading done then, but I've steadily been making some progress this week on 2 books that I can talk to you about and then other books that I cannot talk to you about. First, the No Girlfriend Rule. I'm officially at 43% of that right now. Really enjoying it, and I'm perfectly on track to finish that by the end of this vlog. And I am also reading Ariel Crashes a Train, and I'm at 40% of that. So I'm also on track to finish that by the end of the week, which is good. I feel like in all my books, I'm making really steady progress, about 10% each day, which I'm good with, I'm happy with. I feel like I'm making progress on lots of different projects at once, which is a good feeling. And I'm excited for the weekend when I can have more time to read than I do now. Speaking of which, I've got to get back to work. It is reading stuff, but it's school readings, so articles, but it is what it is. Oh, I totally forgot to tell you that I did in fact read the next Magic Treehouse book, Balto of the Blue Dawn, which I'm giving 3 stars. It was an average Magic Treehouse book. I had heard of Balto before, but I hadn't heard of what specifically Balto did in like the diphtheria incident. So that was interesting at least. And Alaska's an interesting setting, but yeah, I didn't have many thoughts on it, which is probably why it slipped my mind completely. Hello, happy Friday. Last night, I finally finished another book. It's just another Magic Treehouse book, so it's nothing special, but it was Danger in the Darkest Hour, which is the World War II book. And it's also the only super edition Magic Treehouse, so it's like longer than all the rest of them, awkwardly. It's supposed to be the first of the super editions, but then I believe it's the only one, which was weird. But I did have a pretty good time with this. 4 stars. Yeah, I mean, since it was longer, there was time for more stuff to happen and more interesting stuff to happen. And also, like, a lot of the times I see Jack and Annie in the Magic Treehouse go to places and times I know nothing about. And I wouldn't say I'm an expert on World War II by any means, but I know more about it than I do about a lot of other history. So that was interesting to see. And I'm also making steady progress in my other books. I forgot to check exactly what percentage I'm at in the No Girlfriend Rule, but I'm at least 40% of the way through that, and I've broken 50% of Ariel Crashes a Train, so that's exciting. I can't show you my little tracker that I made for this week because it has secret books on it, but I have been keeping track of things with little circles. Every little circle is 10% of a book. We've made progress. And now it's the weekend, and I would say I'll have a lot of reading time this weekend, but I honestly have no idea, so I guess we'll see what happens. Time to do some reading sprints. Hello friends, happy Saturday night. I had some good time outside today and also did some great reading sprints, and so I got a lot of reading done earlier. In particular, I finished 2 books while I was live. I finished The No Girlfriend Rule. I'm gonna tell you about that so I don't have to put the graphic for the other one on screen yet, and I gave this 4 stars. In this one, we're following this girl, Hollis, and she is basically trying to get into this Dungeons and Dragons like game that's not called Dungeons and Dragons, probably for copyright reasons, in order to try and get closer to her boyfriend. But there's a no girlfriend rule for his friend group and their game, so she cannot join them. So she finds another group. She finds a group of girls that she starts playing with, and they become besties. And then some things happen, and it gets a little crazy. It's a very diverse cast of characters who I love with all of my heart. Like, their group that they played with was everything. I loved them all. As the author likes to say, they are a plus-sized, queer, neurodiverse author writing plus-sized, queer, neurodiverse books, and that's exactly what this was. It was beautiful. I did get a lot of anxiety around some of the conflict points in the book because the group was kind of falling apart at one time, and I really didn't want that because they were so good for each other, and so I got really nervous. I knew it would be fixed, but I just had to keep reading, so I did. The reason I didn't get 5 stars or even 4.5 stars is because the beginning was really slow for me. Like the setup, I just had trouble getting into it, I think. Once we really had built those original connections and we saw them spending more time together, that's when I really bought into the story, I would say. But the setup was maybe not as interesting as I wanted it to be. That's that book. Glad I read it, and it came out this month, at the beginning of this month. Well, you're seeing this in April now, so last month it came out in March. And then another queer YA book that came out in March this year that I finished reading today was Ariel Crashes a Train by Olivia A. Cole, which I'm giving 3.5 stars. It's written in verse, and it's largely just a contemporary story about this teenager who has really bad OCD but doesn't know what OCD is. It's a really hard read because the thought processes that Ariel, the main character, goes through are really difficult. Like, it's a very dark book, but I really liked some of the characters in this and how they handled mental health, especially because Ariel is from a really religious family who doesn't believe in therapy, and so the way that her friends and loved ones try to help her in ways that her parents will allow and they won't let her go to therapy, I really appreciated. And I also really appreciated the message that, like, these things are a good start, but once you are free from your parents and in a safe place to do so, you need to seek professional help. I think books either go one way or the other with their message, where they're like, professional help is the only way, but sometimes that is just not possible for people at a certain point in their lives, while other people go like, don't go to treatment. I see that less. I mainly see the like only professional treatment, and professional treatment is essential, but sometimes, again, it's not feasible for people. And so I really liked the message that there are things that you can do and there is agency that you have over yourself and your situation, even when you don't get to make the choice to seek professional help for something. And I also liked the way that some characters found humor in the situations as a way to like battle the cognitive distortions. So it was a really interesting read, but it wasn't a very cohesive read. And I hesitate to call it repetitive because, of course, the problem with OCD is that the thoughts around OCD are obsessive. They are repetitive, but that's not what I mean when I say it was repetitive. I didn't mind the repetitiveness of the characters' thoughts per se. There were other repetitive things about the book that were unrelated to the character's OCD that I felt like could have been done differently, and maybe that was on purpose, and maybe I just missed some of the point in that. And interestingly enough, both this and the No Girlfriend Rule involve very anxious queer people who are fabulous artists. So riddle me that. Two very different characters with very different stories and very different mental health issues. At the same time, I'm really glad to see that 2 books coming out in the same month both have this type of representation. I think that's a good sign from the traditional publishing business because both of these were traditionally published books. And the thing about traditional publishing is like they've often shied away from these diverse characters, and there were even conversations in Ariel Crashes a Train between Ariel, who is white, and Ruth, who is black, about the fact that even though Ariel is struggling, she still has some privileges because of her race. And I feel like that's a really important conversation to have in a young adult book, but one that, like, this book is going to be banned for so many reasons, and that's one of them. At least banned in the state of Florida. Love it here, having a great time. But it's what I love to see represented in books, and so I'm really glad that I gave that a read, even though it wasn't maybe everything I wanted it to be and more. It was still a good time, an interesting read, good food for thought. Now I have some leftover pizza that's more like a flatbread than pizza, because if I described it to you, you'd be like, that's not pizza, but it is from a pizza place technically. And I'm probably gonna watch TV and maybe read a little more tonight and call it a night. So, later. after that beautiful Easter morning sunrise, all of the reading that I got done on Sunday was for other videos. So that brings me to the end of this video. If you're still watching up to this point, please drop a little green heart in the comments down below. If you like this video, go ahead and give it a big thumbs up and subscribe for more bookish and college lifestyle content. And until next time, bye humans, bye!